Welcome to Barely Entertaining's Classic Collections podcast, where we aim to introduce a whole new audience to great classic stories. I'm Kathy, and I hope you enjoy the story I found for you today. Jasper and the 100 Hares, a retelling of the classic Danish fairy tale from the Violet Fairy book. Once upon a time, in a kingdom small enough to see from the king's rooftop, there lived a very proud king. Though his lands were tiny, he loved every inch and worried constantly about who would take over after him. His only child was a daughter, and he wanted her to marry someone clever, rich, and worthy of being her partner one day. So he came up with a plan. He announced across his own land and even in nearby kingdoms that anyone who brought him a dozen of the finest pearls he had ever seen and passed a series of challenges would win the princess's hand and eventually share the crown with her.
If you wish to marry my daughter fair, you'll need more than a hopeful prayer. A dozen pearls round and bright, each one perfect, catching the light. But don't be fooled, it's more than jewels. The path is rocky with riddles and rules. A dozen perfect pearls, a dozen perfect pearls, not just treasures from the ocean swirls. You'll need wit, you'll need nerve if her love you wish to deserve. Each step a test, each turn a trial. Prove your strength, your heart, your guile. A dozen perfect pearls, a dozen perfect pearls, not just treasures from the ocean swirls. You'll need wit, you'll need nerve if her love you wish to deserve. A dozen perfect pearls, a dozen perfect pearls, not just treasures from the ocean swirls. You'll need wit, you'll need nerve if her love you wish to deserve.
Many suitors came, princes, merchants, and even a few tricksters tried their luck. Some brought real pearls, but failed the challenges. Others tried to pass off fake pearls and were kicked out. After weeks of visitors, the crowd thinned, and no worthy husband had appeared. Meanwhile, in a quiet fishing village by the sea lived an old fisherman and his 3 sons, Peter, Paul, and Jasper. Peter and Paul were strong and boastful, while Jasper, though the younger and smaller, was smart and kind. One day their father brought home 3 dozen oysters. To everyone's shock, each oyster had a perfect pearl inside. The brothers decided to divide the pearls and each take a shot at winning the princess. Peter went first. On his journey to the palace, he came across 2 armies, one of ants and one of beetles, about to go to war. "Help us," said the ant king. "The beetles outnumber us. We'll repay you someday." Peter scoffed, "Not my problem," and walked away. Further on, he met an old woman who asked, "What is in your basket?" "Cinders," Peter lied, thinking she was nosy. "Very well," said the old woman. "Cinders it is." At the palace, when Peter showed the king his pearls, they turned dark and crumbly, just like ashes. Embarrassed, he rushed home and said nothing. The next day, Paul went. Like Peter, he ignored the insect army. And when the old woman asked, "What's in your basket?" he lied and said stale bread. Unsurprisingly, his pearls turned into stale bread when they opened the basket in the palace. On the 3rd day, it was Jasper's turn. His brothers mocked him, but Jasper quietly took his pearls and set out. When the ant king asked for help, Jasper saw how unfair the beetles' advantage was. He stepped in, scattering the beetles and saving the ants. The ant king bowed in thanks. "If you ever need us, Just call." Jasper smiled and walked on. Soon he met the old woman. "What's in your basket?" she asked. "Pearls," Jasper said honestly, showing them to her. "Lovely," she said, "but they won't be enough to win the princess. You'll need to pass the king's test. Can you spare your lunch for an old woman?" "Of course," Jasper said, and gave her everything. In return, she gave him a small wooden whistle. "Blow this, and anything you've lost will return to you." Jasper thanked her and continued on. At the palace, the king and queen were stunned by the quality of Jasper's pearls, until they found out that he was just a fisherman's son. "He'll never pass the challenges," the king muttered. "We'll make sure of that." The next morning, Jasper's first task was to sort a giant pile of mixed grains, wheat, rye, oats, and barley, into separate heaps by sunset. The king locked the door as he shut it behind him. Jasper tried, but the task was impossible alone. He remembered the Ant King and called out, "Ant King, come help!" Within minutes, the ants came pouring in and quickly sorted the pile. Jasper fell asleep watching them work. When the king returned and unlocked the door, he was shocked. Jasper had finished and taken a nap. The next day, the king and his gamekeeper released 100 hares into a field. Jasper had to keep them in sight until evening. If even one went missing, he'd lose his chance. As the hares bolted in all directions, Jasper panicked until he remembered the whistle. One sharp blow, and all 100 hares came bounding back to sit in a circle around him.
Bum, 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 bum. A dozen pearls rest in his hand, the secret key to her heartland. Whistle blows sharp in the forest deep, hares gather close, secrets to keep. He's smart, kind, clever, true, honest eyes, a royal hue, the princess waits the crown, unsure, a love so pure, a heart so sure.
Through brambles thick his path unfolds, a riddle told, a treasure bold. The hares they leap, they guide his way toward her tower at break of day.
A tune so light it bends the trees, his song unlocks the summer breeze. The door creaks wide, the pearls alight, the stars bow down to crown the night.
He's smart, kind, clever, true, honest eyes, a royal hue, the princess smiles, the kingdom sways, love will rule the coming days. Kind, clever, true, honest eyes, a royal hue, the princess smiles, the kingdom sways, love will rule the coming days.
The king was furious and sent people in disguise to trick Jasper. First came a pretty girl asking for a hare to cook for guests. Jasper agreed if she gave him a kiss. She hesitated, but then agreed, and left with a hare, only for Jasper to whistle it back minutes later. Next came a peasant woman. Jasper offered a hare if she walked around him on tiptoe, looked at the sky, and clucked like a chicken. Reluctantly, she did. But of course, the hare was soon returned to Jasper when he blew his whistle. Last came a pompous man in royal clothing. Jasper said he could have a hare if he stood on his head, kicked his feet in the air, and shouted, "Hurrah!" Red-faced, he complied. But this hare too returned to Jasper just like the others when he blew the whistle. That evening, Jasper returned with all 100 hares. The palace buzzed with excitement. Even the princess smiled at him. "Impressive," said the king. "One last test." The next day, a tub was placed before the royal court. The king said, "You must fill this tub with true statements. When I say it's full, you win." Jasper nodded and began. "Yesterday a girl dressed in rags came for a hare and paid for it with a kiss. And that girl was the princess." She blushed and nodded. "Later, a woman clucked like a chicken for a hare, and that was the queen. The queen turned bright red, but she could not deny it." Everyone in the court was laughing now. "Next," said Jasper, "a man stood on his head and shouted, 'Hurrah!' And it was—" The king leapt to his feet, unable to take any more embarrassment from this fisherman's son. It's full, the tub is full. You win," said the king, preventing Jasper from saying any more. But everyone in the court knew it had been the king. Jasper smiled. The king, red with embarrassment, waved his hand. "You have completed every task. I am not sure how, but you have," he muttered. "You may marry the princess." And so Jasper, clever, kind, and honest, married the princess, and one day they ruled the little kingdom between sunrise and sunset, where they were known as the wisest rulers it had ever seen. Thanks for joining me for this classic story. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I can't wait to share another classic with you, so keep listening to Barely Entertaining for more great classic content.